For generations, individuals have carried the weight of their family histories, often unknowingly. These ancestral shadows can manifest as repeated patterns, unresolved trauma, and inexplicable fears that shape our lives in a significant way. So today, we will explore the importance of understanding our heritage, how to recognize the influence of past generations, and the profound impact it has on our personal growth. We are going to learn how to break free. And to lead the way, we are speaking to Iyanla Vanzant. She's a New York Times bestselling author, hitting #1 6 times. She has authored 17 books, which have been translated in 23 languages, selling over 10 million copies. You might know her from her hit TV show, Iyanla Fix My Life. And you can check her out now on her podcast, The R Spot, every Wednesday, everywhere, wherever you listen to your podcast. It's a great show. Interviewing her is like the highlight of my summit experience every year. Iyanla, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
Good. I'm so good. When you emailed me about this topic, I immediately got chills because I think it's so important and I don't think it's talked about a lot. I don't think people really stop and think, what did I pick up from my great-grandmother? So, we pick up things from our ancestors, like a nose or our mouth or how we look, but what else do we pick up from our ancestors?
Well, we pick up emotional propensities, behavioral propensities, even spiritual propensities in the same way that we inherit our physical likenesses and our physical characteristics, and she gets, I don't want to give her a bad rap, but a lot of it is on mom. Oh, poor mom gets blamed for everything. But just imagine that as you're growing, the first thing you hear is your mother's heartbeat. So what if her heart or her emotional being is sad or grieving or angry or depressed? And then the next thing you hear is her voice. And what is the tone, the tenor, the quality of her voice? What is she living with? What is she living in? What is she living through? And you growing in her body, that energy, that spirit, if you will, gets woven into your bones, your hair follicles, your DNA. And then imagine that she got from her mom. And, dad's not off the hook because how was he in the environment? How did he interact with her? What did you hear him say? And what was the tone, tenor, energetic of his voice? So we inherit emotional, spiritual, psychological energies and propensities from our mothers, from our parents, who got it from their parents, who got it from their parents. And then here we are today in the 21st century living with irrational fear, which your grandmother may have held or your great-grandmother may have held because she was afraid of wild animals, eating her at night, or, the depression, or,
even something like, financial or intimacy. And I think what happens is when we don't have these conversations, sometimes we feel so triggered by something. We look at our own childhood and we're like, it doesn't really make sense. I don't really understand why I have this trigger. And so you maybe wonder, did I forget something? Or is there just something inherently broken about me? And then when you realize that these things can be generational, I think there's this level of self-compassion because you start to see this whole story. And two, this idea of this realization that there's nothing wrong with you to have those strong reactions. They were passed down to you.
Yeah, and you just want to understand where they came from, but you don't need to understand where they came from to eliminate them. And tapping is one way that we can eliminate them. I always tell a story about me and the Brillo and the SOS soap pads. My mother used Brillo. And, growing up a young mother, struggling financially, SOS was on sale. And I was literally in the supermarket weeping because I felt like I was betraying everything my mother taught me to buy those soap pads, but they were on sale. They were cheaper. But I couldn't break the chains, if you will, the enslavement to the SOS soap pads to buy the Brillo on sale. It was a major understanding and recognition for me. The other thing is, that's why it's so important for us so very often to know our parents' story. What was their story? Because what happens is when we don't know the story, we see behaviors and propensities in our parents that we hate, that we ultimately become and don't understand why, but it's because their story and it's just coming down through the line.
Yes. Well, and Iyanla, we chatted about this yesterday, and then I remembered that there was research around this. So I actually looked this up this morning. There was a study in 2013 in Emory University where they took mice. Now, you know the story, but do you want to share the story or would you like me to? I don't know. So this researcher took mice and they exposed these mice to a smell. It was like cherry blossoms, something like cherry blossoms. And obviously the smell didn't impact them, but then they would give them a little electric shock every time they smelt it. And so it got to the point where they would smell that smell, and because they associated with pain, they would get a fear response. So even after they finished shocking these mice still had that fear. Well, what is so fascinating is that these mice then had children who then would smell that and have that same fear response. Not only that, then they tested it with the great-grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren would have fear of that smell. And I think that is just this perfect example of how science is showing us what we have been discovering, what people have been talking about for so long, is that our ancestors impact our life today, and we have to look at that.
Yeah, it's called epigenetics. They didn't shock me, but my mother didn't like okra. And she always said, I don't like okra. I don't like okra. Disgusting. Okra are nasty. Well, I never, of course, so she never cooked them. One evening, my neighbor who used to help me when I was a young mom going to college, she would cook for me. So she cooked this thing and I came home and I ate it. So the next day I said to her, what is that? That was so good. She said it was okra and butter beans. I said, no, I don't eat okra. She said, yes, you do. So sometimes it's not even what we inherit physically, but it's what they teach us, what they say to us, what they show us. We inherit those things. So I didn't know that I liked okra because I had never eaten it, but I had an entire opinion about it and, non-relationship with it because of what I heard my mom say. So we do that all the time. I've worked with generations of, let's say, women, where grandma wasn't married, mom wasn't married, the daughter isn't married, the grandchild. I've worked with men. Granddad was in prison, father was in prison, son is in prison, grandson is heading to prison. So there are all sorts of things. Again, we are living organic beings. And yes, we get blood and yes, we get cells, but we also get energy. We also get energy. Sometimes in the household, what you see or hear or smell or experience becomes your experience.
And as we start to look closer at our family lines, at our mothers, how do we do this without starting to feel resentment or blame for that generation?
Well, you're not blaming the people. You're not holding them responsible. So it's really a good thing. Hot damn, that's why I'm crazy as hell. I inherited it, Or, oh my God. I never taught my children anything about money because we didn't have any. So when my kids grew up and they started earning their own and never had enough or whatever, I said, your mother taught you that. Forgive me. Forgive her. I didn't even make it about me. I said, your mother taught you that. I'm talking to my children. Your mother taught you that. Forgive her. Forgive her and go out and learn how to do this. So they gave us the best that we had. Even if it was trash, Jessica, they walked 8 miles barefooted to find the best trash they could and brought it back to us. We can't say, oh my God, they gave me trash. We have to say, oh my God, look what they went to give me, what they went through to give me the best of what they have. And now in the 21st century, with things like tapping, with things like conscious breath work, with Reiki, with solfeggio frequencies, the things that we can use that they didn't have. that once we become aware, it becomes our responsibility to eliminate it so that it doesn't go forward. Because what we heal in this body, we are not only lifting them, we are healing for the future generations. And that's the power and the beauty of it.
Yes. I mean, what a motivation when you're walking through a difficult moment to be like, the work I'm doing is not just for me, it is also to break these chains for future generations, and it impacts, because sometimes we do so much more for other people than we do for ourselves. And having that awareness of like, I'm doing this for me, but I'm doing this for future generations might be the motivation we need to show up every day to do some tapping. So I love that.
But future, past generations, because they lived their life and left this life still carrying that energy. And they are still connected to you by blood, by energy, by memory. So even, in my family line, it was sexual violence against women on both sides of my family. I experienced sexual violence, but I started doing my work very early. Neither one of my daughters experienced that. So that means that I lifted my grandmother's energy that I carry, and I did the work so that it didn't carry on to my daughters. I did the healing work. I had the conversations. I implemented a different way of being. So we're not only healing for the past, we're also lifting the energy of the ancestors, because as you lift their energy within you. And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of the work.
Beautiful. Yes. Why do you feel like tapping is such a powerful healing tool? I know it's something that you used to use behind the scenes in your show all the time, Iyanla Fix Your Life. Why was it your go-to?
Well, when my daughter Jamia was diagnosed with colon cancer, I was like traumatized, and she was too, We had a lot of anxiety, we had a lot of stress, we had a lot of fear, and I was introduced to tapping at that time. And we used to tap. When she was doing chemotherapy, we used to tap at home, and anytime, one of us had a really dark thought. And I just experienced firsthand. It wasn't anything anybody had to tell me. I experienced firsthand, the relief that I felt. And then after she made her transition, and I went into it even deeper to deal with the grief, to deal with the sadness, to deal with the confusion, to deal with the anger, all of that. And you get it immediately. I felt it immediately. I felt the release. I felt the relief. Didn't mean it wouldn't come back. So it would come back, and then I'd look for other techniques and other scripts and other, I'm like, okay, I wanted to be gone forever. But as a mom, you're going to miss your child. I missed her, but I didn't suffer. Tapping stopped my suffering. Because I was suffering. Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to doing tapping, and for everyone that's watching to do this work. I mean, it feels very sacred to do this with you today. How can we, so you do tapping a little bit different than we do. Yeah. Just want to state to everyone, there's acupressure points all over your body. So a lot of it is preference, but I love to tap the way that you tap. And if you could just walk us through the algorithm that you love the most, and that way when we have an experience, we'll be following along with you.
Well, I studied progressive EFT with Lindsay Kenny, who is also at the summit very often. And so I want us to start with kind of a generalized release statement. So normally we would start by clearing the conflict. One of the things about tapping, we're putting it in, but there's a part of us that's in resistance. Always, Jessica, there's a part of you that wants to heal and a part of you that doesn't. So sometimes when you're tapping, that part of you that wants to heal is doing the tapping, but inside there's the voice saying, this is not going to work. I don't believe this. This is crazy. And then you tapping on your head looking like a lunatic. So usually I start doing what's called a reversal statement so that I neutralize that part of us that doesn't want to heal. But I want us to start today so we don't have to do the reversal, because we're going to put in. And we're going to tap on the points that impact the greatest organs in your body, your liver, that holds anger, your kidney that holds fear. We're going to tap the central nervous system. We're going to tap for the cerebellum and the base of the brain, that monkey brain. So the points that I use are your eyebrow, right at the eyebrow, the side of the eye, under the eye. Now we do nose and chin together because that's the central meridian. That's going all through your body. That's going all down into your toes. Yeah? We do the collarbone. Yeah? We do under the arm because that triggers the liver, the triple boiler, the liver, the pancreas, and the gallbladder. Then we do right under the boobs, right where the rib cage meets, right there. That's the kidney spot. Then we do the wrists because that's your central vein in your body. And then we do the top of the head.
Perfect.
So once again, eyebrow, side of eye, under eye, nose and chin, collarbone, underarm, liver spot, wrist, and top of head.
Perfect. So really the only difference from your style and mine is, one, you save time. I do like this, 2 in 1. And then the wrist. So it's like the inside of your wrist, just crossing your arms.
It's your wrist, yeah. Because,
Perfect.
When you go to get IV, that's the first place they look. Why? Because central vein that's going to go all through your body. So as we're tapping and we're speaking, we're hitting all of the major organs that hold all of the most toxic emotions and cooties. I call them cooties.
Emotional cooties. I love it.
That are stored in your body. So I want to invite everyone first to take a nice deep breath. And set a really good intention for yourself to release any ancestral patterns that may be present in your life at their deepest root and cause. And as we go through this sequence, and I'll speak the tap, I'll speak the script. As we go through this sequence, you set an intention. So just kind of settle your body in wherever you are. And I'm going to lead us, and we're going to start on the eyebrows, okay? So you can repeat after me. I state your name.
Jessica.
Side of eye. In this moment of now.
In this moment of now.
Under eye. Choose to summon.
Choose to summon.
The court of equity.
The court of equity.
Nose and chin. With all of my ancestors.
With all of my ancestors.
To hear.
To hear.
And witness.
And witness.
My decree.
My decree.
Collarbone. I. State your name.
Jessica Ortner.
In this moment of now.
In this moment of now.
Underarm. Choose and summon.
Choose and summon.
My ancestors.
My ancestors.
To hear.
To hear.
And witness my decree.
And witness my decree.
Liver spot. On this day.
On this day.
I state your name.
I, Jessica.
Wrist together. Do hereby claim.
Do hereby claim.
And decree my freedom.
And decree my freedom.
Top of head. From spiritual.
From spiritual.
Mental.
Mental.
And emotional.
And emotional.
Generational.
Generational.
Dysfunction.
Dysfunction.
Eyebrows. From habitual.
From habitual.
Side of eye. Unproductive.
Unproductive.
Patterns of thought.
Patterns of thought.
Under eye. Emotion.
Emotions.
Belief.
Beliefs.
And behavior.
And behaviors.
Nose and chin. That have in the past.
That have in the past.
Limited.
Limited.
Restricted.
Restricted.
or denied.
or denied.
Collarbone, my freedom to choose
My freedom to choose
and determine.
and determine
Underarms, the course of my life
the course of my life
and the nature of my experience.
and the nature of my experience.
Liver spot, I acknowledge and honor my ancestors.
I acknowledge and honor my ancestors,
Wrist together, whose blood runs through my veins,
whose blood runs through my veins,
whose lives are in the fibers of my being.
whose lives are in the fibers of my being,
Top of head, whose sacrifices have become my blessings.
whose sacrifices have become my blessings.
Eyebrows, I acknowledge their courage.
I acknowledge their courage.
Eye to eye, I acknowledge their wisdom.
I acknowledge their wisdom.
Under eye, at the deepest root and cause,
At the deepest root and cause,
I acknowledge their difficulties,
I acknowledge their difficulties,
the ones they faced,
the ones they faced,
the ones they conquered.
the ones they conquered,
Nose and chin, so that I could live a life free
so I could live a life free
from the challenges,
from the challenges,
hindrances,
hindrances,
obstructions,
obstructions,
and blockages
and blockages
that my ancestors faced.
that my ancestors faced.
Collarbone, I acknowledge I am who I am
I acknowledge I am who I am
because they lived and breathed.
because they lived and breathed.
Underarm, and I accept and decree
And I accept and decree
that I have the capacity,
that I have the capacity
liver spot, and the right,
and the right,
and I now choose
and I now choose
to live beyond
to live beyond
perceived limitations
perceived limitations
my ancestors faced,
my ancestors faced,
without betraying
without betraying
our connection.
our connection.
Top of head, I lift my voice,
I lift my voice.
I decree and declare
I decree and declare
I am free from the past.
I am free from the past.
It can touch me not.
That it can touch me not.
Take a breath. Hold that breath. Just let the energy circulate. And when you're ready, slowly exhale. And it's important that we acknowledge them,
Yes.
that we don't hold resentment and anger and upset. They went through a lot. And everything that they conquered, everything that they were victorious in, paved the road for us today. And sometimes, like me with the Brillo and the the SOS, we don't live beyond what we learned from them because it feels like a betrayal. So we acknowledge them, we lift them, and we let it go.
So
we let it go.
That was so powerful. I'm going to put that script in the workbook for anyone who feels like they need to go through that a few times. But wow. That was incredible. I don't even know what to say. I had so many thoughts running through my head, but I started to see my ancestors. I started to they really were so vivid in my mind. And the other thing that I realized is all the work that I've done, and I'm sure listeners can relate to, most of us are not, this isn't day one of the inner work. Most of us have been doing this for a while. And I feel like when I look back at all the work I have done personally with tapping, I have such a great connection with my ancestors. I call on them. I don't get on a stage without calling my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and the women before me. And my parents came from very dysfunctional families. But I feel like when you are able to do this work, then you get the power, because even with the pain, they have things to give you.
Yeah.
To empower you forward.
The wisdom.
The wisdom.
And we get to reinterpret those experiences because we live in the 21st century. So the wisdom that my great-great-grandmother had, my grandmother, who practically raised me, could go into an empty cupboard. I mean, it could be like a box of salt and pepper and I don't know what else, and make a whole meal. She was resourceful. And that's what saved her. Now, what she was trying to save herself from, I don't have to live with that anymore. I'm not worried about, night robbers coming in and breaking in my door and killing me or raping me in the bushes. But the body doesn't translate the reason. The body translates the fear or the grief or the sadness or the anger. And what I would say even to women who have experienced abuse or sexual abuse, take that script and do it for your matriarchal line. Then take that script and do it for your patriarchal line. If you know your ancestors' names, call their names. Call their names. I decree my freedom from the dysfunction of my mother and my grandmother and my greatest grandmother in my matriarchal line. And my grandfather and my great-great-grandfather, my greatest grandfather in my patriarchal line. I declare, and see what has happened is we called them forward. We asked them to hear and witness. So they are like, oh, yes. Oh, goody. So that, if you go back and you listen to the script, we didn't just do it as though they were some external factors. We asked them to come and witness. And the reason they struggled to survive, the reason they lived through their dysfunction is so that we could be free today. So now that we're declaring our freedom, I'm sure they are very, very happy.
Oh, they are celebrating. Absolutely. I believe that. A big thing that we're doing here is we're reclaiming our free will. We're realizing that we don't have to be part of this pattern. I would love to do some tapping that really anchors that in, like that thing of like, we are declaring our free will, we're moving forward, like that kind of moving forward of what we want to create, not just letting go, but what we want to bring into our future.
Well, let us clear the playing field and then we'll bring it in. How about that?
Let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the eyebrow point, come with me. I'm not going to call out the points this time. I'm going to move. So it doesn't really matter what you do. You just tap, okay? Here we go. I am claiming my spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, and financial freedom from all historical, generational, ancestral, patterns of thought, belief, behavior, whether conscious or unconscious, real or imagined, learned or taught, without betraying the people that have in the past restricted, limited, obstructed, delayed, or denied, or diminished, or eliminated my God-given right of free will to experience and to express my authentic identity, to share my gifts and talents and my deepest heartfelt desires in ways that honor the truth of who I am
the truth of who I am,
and how I choose to live in the world.
and how I choose to live in the world.
Take a breath, hold it, let the energy circulate, and when you're ready, just let it out slowly.
I know this is a crazy thing to say, but I feel like I can go work out. Like I like have this energy that I'm like, I'm ready to go for a run. Like that is so freeing.
The spiritual, the mental, the emotional, the physical, and I always do the financial, because money or finances is a function of our energy. So usually, no matter what we're thinking, good, but it's going to affect our money. So I always put financial in there, and then historical, wherever it came from. Some of these beliefs and behaviors come from society. Do you understand, Jessica, that when I was born, I won't tell you what year, when I was born, it would have been unheard of for you, a white woman, and me, a black woman, to do this?
Yeah.
It was unheard of. That couldn't have happened.
Right.
In this United States of America, in the year I was born. And I certainly couldn't be giving you no information. Do you understand that? Do you understand that just 10 years before I was born, that it was illegal 10 years before my mother was born, it was illegal for a woman to know how to read. We're carrying that in our body.
Yeah.
And so for some of us, it shows up as depression. For some of us, it shows up as being overweight. For some of us, it shows up as just dream after dream, destroyed or deferred. It shows up as self-sabotage, because the part of us that doesn't want to betray those historical, generational, ancestral patterns, social patterns, cultural patterns, we don't want to betray them. And that's why the script says, whether belief or behavior, whatever it is, conscious or unconscious. So we've covered everything in there, and we've cut it, and we've let it go. I love it.
I love it too. You know, this concept of betrayal is so interesting, because I've seen it come up a lot when working with others, especially, you know, even in simple things, even like, well, if I start making more money than my family and we hate people who have money, that I'm going to betray, they're going to look at me like, what's wrong with you? Do you think you're better than us? Or if I get in better physical health, my whole family struggles, they're going to look at me and make comments. That's a big theme that happens a lot, this desire to be connected, even if it's through pain.
Yeah. I want to talk to, because I know there are some in the audience, the ones who made it out. I want to talk to you, the ones who did it totally different, even if you were stumbling and fumbling along the way. Because what that usually or can engender for someone is guilt. Guilt that I made it out. You know, in life, sometimes it's called survivor's guilt. But for those of us who break family patterns, who go to college for the first time, or who buy a home, or who, you know, whatever it can be, it engenders very often a lot of guilt, because we're breaking that family chain and pattern. So I hope that as you do these scripts, that you will add to it the guilt of leaving my family behind, or the shame of being different than my family, the judgment I feel about the people I'm leaving behind, because we're not that evolved, you know, because sometimes when we rise above or when we break out, we'll go into judgment. Well, they should, or why didn't they? No. Put all of that in your script. Put it in. I'm releasing judgment of my ancestors. I'm releasing guilt for breaking the chains. I'm releasing the shame of feeling better. I'm releasing, I'm cutting, I'm letting, add it in. Because, you know, as you tap, things will come to your mind, yeah? Put those things in the script. Put them in there. So that you can be totally... Yeah. So let's do this. Let's do this one real quick. I love using I am, because I am is a creative energy. When I'm tapping, sometimes I just tap in I am. And I can put, I am clear, I am free. But I want to just leave us with this one if I can. So on the eyebrows, I am now free.
I am now free.
To live a life.
To live a life.
Of infinite choice.
Of infinite choice.
To be.
To be.
To do.
To do.
To have.
To have.
All that I desire.
All that I desire.
Side of I am free.
I am free.
I feel grounded.
I feel grounded.
Centered.
Centered.
Stable.
Stable.
And powerful.
And powerful.
As I move through each day of life.
As I move through each day of life.
Under nose and chin. Knowing in the deepest essence of my being.
Knowing in the deepest essence of my being.
Collarbone. That I have the right.
That I have the right.
And the power.
And the power.
Be joy-filled.
To be joy-filled.
Underarms. Peaceful and successful.
Peaceful and successful.
By doing.
By doing.
What makes me feel good.
What makes me feel good.
Liver spot. I have the right.
I have the right.
To be successful.
To be successful.
Wrist. My self-esteem.
My self-esteem.
Self-worth.
My self-worth.
My self-value.
My self-value.
Is now reestablished.
Is now reestablished.
By my source.
By my source.
I am free.
I am free.
Take a breath. Hold that breath. When you're ready, slowly let it out. We have the right, Jessica. We have the right. And we have free will. We just need to know what to do.
What would you say to someone who's watching this, tapping, they're feeling a shift, but they're feeling a lot? Like maybe they're crying or just, a lot of emotions come up when you do this work.
Keep tapping and vent. Vent.
Yes.
I don't know if this is working. I feel, and why did they do this? Keep tapping. Don't stop tapping. Tapping and venting. You're moving energy. You're moving energy. And when nothing else is coming forward, take that breath. Hold it. Let the energy circulate. And then simply, things that you have, Jess, things that you have. I have free will. I have infinite choice. I have the right to determine my destiny. I am responsible. I am a being of light. I am connected to my source. If those things come up, once you finish the vent, just go in and speak the truth to yourself. Speak the truth. Those things are true. We do have free will. We do have infinite choice. We do have the right to choose. We are connected to source, God, creator, whatever you want to call it. We are. So then just go in and let the Holy Spirit, let the creator spirit, let the source spirit balance that out. But if things come up when you're tapping, keep tapping.
And I think it's important to bring that up because sometimes someone will start crying and you're like, that is the most beautiful thing. Sometimes that's exactly what you need to do to give yourself this space to let go, to move through that energy. We have to stop being so scared of feeling deeply, and grabbing our phone the moment we have a feeling. Like, it's so powerful to have this time to just let ourselves be with what is and to move that energy through.
My great-grandson is 6. He knows how to tap. So the other day, he was having a really bad day. He said, my emotions are all over the place and I don't really know what to do. It makes my anger and my sadness so much worse. I just want to tap it out. I can't help myself. He's 6.
I love that. I mean, if someone said to me, how do you create world peace? And I had to give an answer, I would say tapping and but this generational generational element is so powerful, and I think has a ripple effect that I don't think we fully comprehend. Sitting in your living room watching this, or sitting in bed or seeing this on your phone and doing this work, I think has consequences that far surpass what we can even imagine.
So yeah, anything that you tap on, anything that you release, that energy that you're not holding, you're no longer, think of yourself as a lighthouse. All of us are little lighthouses. We're not in the ocean, but we're little lighthouses. And we're beaming. Boop, boop, boop. We're telegraphing information all the time. The clearer, the cleaner, the more peaceful, joyful your energy is, the greater is the light that you're sending out to the world.
Iyanla, thank you for helping us tap into our light, to help us shine it, to do this incredible work. Every time I speak to you, I'm just so in awe of you. You're such a gift. Thank you so much for spending this time with us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for your commitment to tapping, and to everyone out there. I don't care what it is, from gas to gas in your belly to a pain in your eye. Tap it out.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you.